What's going on, guys? This is Mars Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, this particular time we're going to go ahead and take it to the Burg. In one of our more recent videos we visited the Painted World, right? And we also visited Dark Root. This time around we're going to come to what I would like to call the Colosseum, the real Colosseum, right? And I'm not talking obviously about the structure, right? I'm talking about because there are a lot of good players who frequent the Burg, right? Now, some people will give the argument that the kiln is a so-called designated dueling area, right? My argument is, because there are a lot of campers, it cannot be a designated quote-unquote dueling area. Now, I am inclined to say that perhaps the Undead Burg is a designated dueling area. And the reason that I say that is because in most cases, I'll say probably about 90% of the time, based upon my particular experience, you do not run into gankers. Right? Or maybe just I haven't run into gankers. Now, is it the case that perhaps, you know, there's two people trying to fight the first boss and you just so happen to invade them during that process? It could be, right? But the conscious, you know, the deliberate effort to gank in the Undead Burg, no, I haven't met that type of situation. So I'm willing to say that this is a so-called designated dueling area. Right? And there are a lot of good players here. Based upon my personal experience, the Undead Burg is kind of designated for people who love PvP but are just simply frustrated with what goes on in the Burg, right? And may not necessarily enjoy being 2v1 camped in Dark Root. Now, me personally, I don't really care, right? I can go to the kiln, I can handle it in the Dark Root. It doesn't really make a difference, right? And excuse me. And as a matter of fact, I'm inclined to say that it's a little more action-packed in Dark Root, right? Because the spontaneity that comes from just having two people running after you, I mean, it's kind of exciting, right? And it kind of is a test to your skills. Right? I mean, because it's hard enough trying to fight against one person, let alone two people hitting you from two angles, right? All right. So we have a high-speed invader here. Thanks for the wave, dude, but let's just get it on. And actually, this guy's a pretty good player, right? He kind of did a move to me that, I mean, it was amazing, but at the same time, I really don't understand how it happened, right? And actually what's going to happen is I slowed the part down and you guys will be able to see it for yourself. It was a cool move, right? If I must say so myself, even if it was used against me. And a lot of times, you know, some people make the mistake of... Actually, let me kind of quiet down for a second. You guys getting ready to see it. Watch this. Now, he's going to attack, but at the same time, he has time to parry. Did you guys see that? As I was saying, sometimes people have the bad habit of when they lose to something that they do not necessarily understand, they'll basically blame it on lag or blame it on some type of system, thereby totally disregarding the abilities of their opponent. Right? Now, just because I did not understand how he was able to thrust and then parry at the last second, doesn't mean that it was lag, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that guy had some high-speed reflexes. Right? That's the bottom line. Right? I'm not going to try to marginalize what happened just because I didn't understand it. So some of you guys who like to cry lag for every single thing or make all these various complaints, sometimes you just need to understand that perhaps you're faced against a mighty fine player, right? And in that, excuse me, particular instance, that was a mighty fine demonstration. Alright, so kind of got a guy who's matched up with similar armor set as myself. And he's wielding 2 weapons. I'm kind of like not even at that point yet. I see a lot of guys who's pretty good at wielding 2 weapons. Right. But me, I like to catch the parries whenever I can, so I don't think I'll ever get to the point of wielding 2 weapons, even though it is possible with the parrying dagger and some of these other left-hand weapons that you're able to parry with. Now, even though I do understand that this guy have relatively low, and I'm going to assume that's the pure elite set, right? No, nothing in addition to the elite pieces. Now, I do understand that because this elite set has relatively low poise, you have to evade, but that Darkwood brain ring really gets annoying. I'm sorry. Right? Just to have somebody, they just flip around that whole arena. It's ridiculous. I hate that. Right? But it is what it is. Now, I'm not saying that because I hate the constant flip that I won't use it myself. Right? Because when I use my heavy builds, I do not use it. But medium to light builds, I do understand why you may need the mobility. Right? Case in point, I would never be rocking the black iron set with the Havels and still hitting the Darkwood grain ring. That's pretty ridiculous in my personal opinion. But that's my opinion, and that's my choice. That has nothing to do with what other players decide to do. The reason being, the black iron set, the Havel set, and the giant set have the highest defenses in the whole game. Right? So with having the high defense, I really don't understand why you really need the added mobility. Right? But that's just me. There's a lot of guys who, they just put whatever is best for them. And I don't have a problem with that. Right? It is what it is. Alright, so he beats me with the buff. Right? And actually, that's not taking anything away from skill, but, right? You cannot deny that those buffs really gives you an advantage. But it is what it is, because that guy's beat me before without buffs. Right? So it's just a loss. And we have another buff user. Crystal Magic Weapon. Okay, he hadn't met the minimum requirements for that weapon. Okay, so he's a 2-hander. Alright, that's cool. Nice. Now, one thing that I really would like to get proficient in is parrying that first swing. Right? Good old short dude 123 is kind of super good at that. And I've asked that guy, what's the secret to it? And, he kind of plays this secretive thing about it. Well, I'll tell you later. But, to the extent that either he tells me or I just figure it out on my own, I really need to figure that out. That guy, anyone who's played that guy, he's pretty awesome at catching that first swing parry. Right? Alright. Vaticani. What is this guy, Italian? Alright, so we got the... Okay. So one thing about this guy, he does the flip, swing attack. So see, attacks like this is kind of easy to parry. Now, I don't know if I'll catch him with it. Well, not in that particular time, but I don't know if I'll catch him with it. But a lot of times when those guys kind of do that, forward, that hurts. That kind of, forward flip and then follow up with attack, those guys are pretty easy to parry because they do it pretty often. Right? Okay, so I see he's trying to hit me off with the backstab, so let me kind of keep my back against the wall. And actually, if I was a little closer to that guy, I would have attempted to parry that charge attack. Right? Because in our more recent Parrying Instructions 103 video, we demonstrated that attack can be parried. Alright. Now, one thing I will say about the Undead Burg, it can definitely be a sobering experience. Right? Now, What exactly do I mean by sobering experience? What I mean is, to the extent that you think to yourself that you're some type of PvP hotshot, right? This is probably one of the better areas to test your skills, right? Because there's a lot of good players who frequent this area, right? And this is not to say that, you know, perhaps, you know, 1 or 2 matches against one person can determine, you know, how good or bad you are. No, I'm not saying that, because, I mean, sometimes you have good days and bad days. What I am saying, however, is because there are a lot of good players who bring a myriad of attack styles to the table, it can really test your reaction to those attack styles and to test the effectiveness of your particular attack style, right? And as I said before, I don't think it's really a legitimate way to kind of judge whether you're good or bad by assessing how many wins you get necessarily. And the reason why I say that is, I'm pretty sure most people can attest to the fact that all of us at some particular time have good days and bad days, right? There's some days where I fight against people and it's like, holy crap, I am destroying everybody, right? There's other days where it seems like I cannot get a break, right? So this is why I say you cannot necessarily judge the degree to which you're so-called good or bad based upon, you know, the number of wins or losses that you get. The way I look at it as, you just really have to pay attention to the wide range of your attacks, how you respond to certain playstyles, and basically just try to get as proficient as you can at the pairing, right? Because pairing can really make a difference in a lot of games, right? Because there's been times where I've been brought down to maybe like 50 vitality, right? But with successful parry, I've won. Right? So this is why in most cases, I mean, unless you just absolutely suck, I will not say that a player is necessarily good or bad. Now, it doesn't mean that I never will say that, right? Because there's just players out there that are just simply good. You can't deny it at all, right? I mean, kind of like good old short dude 123, my pairing partner. I think he's a good player. There's a few other guys that I've run into that I may not know off the top of my head right now who's a good player, but there's a lot of ones out there, right? But it's kind of difficult. Because there's been times where, I mean, maybe I'm staying up all night, right? Maybe my son is awake. He won't go to sleep, so I'm up playing, right? And because I'm just up, maybe I'm not really, you know, maybe my reflexes are not as quick as they normally would be. Maybe I'm not paying necessarily attention to detail the way I should be. So many factors that plays into that. I just say either it was a good match or it wasn't. Right? But I don't really say anything against the individual player unless they just really, really suck. Right? Alright. Ouch. Okay, so he's kind of hitting me with the buff. I guess he thought that buff was going to outlast the man-serpent greatsword. Right? But in that particular case, nah. Alright, so, well, I'm kind of talking about PvP. Just recently, I have created probably about 3 or 4 new builds, right, that I plan to feature sometime in the future. And actually, in testing those builds out, one build in particular I have called Tons of Flack, right? So let's just kind of talk about it. I have a thief build, right? That's level 125. Excuse me. And the reason why I call it a thief is because not only am I using the thief hood, but I also use the hidden body sorcery. Right now, in testing that build out, excuse me, in testing that build out, I have run into guys who, you know, they'll say, oh, look at the noob tactics. I mean, you're so cheap, because they catch me with the hidden body. right? And see, here's what I mean about making criticisms before you know all the information. Little did this person know that that's just what my build is, right? That's just so happen to be what my build is. I mean, just like that ridiculous thief and dark, what's that, dark root? You know, he's hitting. I mean, you got the knight that's hitting. That just so happened to be my build, dude. I mean, there are tons of varieties for which you can create a build. And this just so happened to be one. And you guys will see it. And actually, I'm going to do a video featuring it. And it's pretty annoying to some people, right? But this is why I use the hidden body sorcery as opposed to the fog ring, which is actually a good, I mean, it's a good alternative. And actually, I might just use the fog ring. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. But the reason why I think I'll use the sorcery as opposed to the fog ring is because at least with the sorcery, you can kind of catch somebody with the element of surprise, right? Meaning you will be temporarily so-called hidden, but it will eventually wear off, right? Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to use the sorcery as opposed to the fog ring, you know, to avoid from being called cheap, right? I don't really care about being called cheap because the thing is, I have done tons of videos and you guys see my skill with no hidden body. But it just so happened to be the skill, I mean the build that I'm going to use. So it is what it is, dude. Speaking of criticisms, I was in the Undead Parish the other day, right? So I got this guy with the with my thief build. I was testing it out. So this guy then sends me this hate mail talking about, oh, you're such a noob. Look at you, dude. I mean, not only are you using elemental weapons, but you're using a fog ring too. Oh, that's why the game is broken. You know, that was basically his message. So I'm thinking to myself, it's funny how people throw the term noob out there, right? Because if the person knew why I was using elemental weapons, he probably wouldn't say that. And as a matter of fact, I'm inclined to say that you're a noob if you don't understand why people use elemental weapons. Basically, the use of elemental weapons should be when you do not invest sufficient amount of strength or dexterity that's required for a plus 15 weapon. For example, let's say I want to use a claymore, right? But I do not want to invest 40 strength and 40 dexterity to maximize its usage. Well, basically, to use the claymore without hitting a plus 15, I could just go to 16 and what's that minimum dexterity? 12, I think. I could just go to 16 and 12 and use a chaos, right? So the fact that you would make a statement about, you know, you're a noob because you're using elemental weapons, that's what I mean about people just throwing that term out there, right? Without really thinking thinking things through, number one, and giving people the benefit of the doubt, right? So be that as it may. So he sends me this hate message about, you know, how much a noob I am because I'm using elemental weapons in a fog ring. So I tell the guy, I'm like, you know, hey dude, if you're such a hot shot, why don't you just go ahead and hit me with the red summon? We can figure it out. And as a matter of fact, I won't even use a fog ring and I'll do the same thing, right? So, you know, quite naturally, he says, hey dude, you know, I won't even waste my time with a guy like you. You suck. You're ridiculous. I'm not going to even, you know, and just like I thought, talking all that mess, and he didn't do anything. Just so happened, he invades me and I take the ring off, right? What happened? He loses again. I say all that to say that you guys who like to send hate messages, you do not always know what the conditions under which you're faced against, right? So to send hate messages without knowing all the information is kind of ridiculous, right? And this is why I really do not send hate messages. Now, I might send a hate response, right? Like if you kind of send me a ridiculous message saying something without knowing all the facts, I might send you a bad response. But when I lose, will I send you a hate message? No. I mean, it just is what it is, right? It's a game. So what? You're going to lose, right? If you don't complain about your wins, don't complain about your losses. That's how I look at it. Now, let me kind of get off that rant. This particular guy is a pain in the you-know-what, right? And the reason why I say that is not because of his tactics. I don't really care about that, even though he's fishing badly for a backstab, but because I'm circling, he can't land it. The reason why I say that is because this guy will continuously use that divine blessing. And as you guys see, I'm kind of pissed off. I wish I had like a headset to this game. But he keeps using the divine blessing. And it's annoying because every single time I bring his vitality low, that's what he does. Alright, so we had an invader kind of change his mind. And this type of guy gets on my nerves. Now watch, he probably is he gonna go try to hit the, I guess not, maybe not this particular time. So now he's gonna go do it. What I tell you, this guy's annoying. And the thing is, I'm the host, and I'm not even doing it. You know, I'm not gonna even lie. There's been times where I've been in the undead Burg, and I'll see one of my invaders just popping off a divine blessing. I'll just run off the ledge, right? Because it's annoying. My thing is, all these people who talk all this baloney about honor and what you should do and what you should not do, everybody does not follow those rules, right? And because of that, I mean, you could just make a decision to either fight in that location or not, or engage the person or not. A lot of times I'll just kill myself, right? And it also depends on what kind of mood I'm in, you know. If I'm just having a bad day, I'll just kind of jump off the ledge out of frustration that someone would do something like that. Other times, I'll just do like I did with that particular person, just chain backstab the crap out of them, or just do whatever I can to stop them from popping off that ridiculous divine blessing. Alright, so here's round 2 against good old, well, I forget his name, I don't want to mess it up. But this is the person who hit me with that high speed thrust and instant parry from earlier, right? So let's see, can I get my get backs? Hopefully I can. I know this guy was feeling pretty good after he hit that awesome move. Man, couldn't get him with the jump attack. Alright. Short dude, 1, 2, 3. Let's see, can we get him? Now that guy's a PvP monster, right? And I'm not talking about Jerk the Bear 12. I'm talking about good old short dude. The reason why I say that is because that guy's everywhere, right? No matter where I'm invading, somehow I'll see him somewhere, right? And I'm not saying see him to fight against me. I'm just saying that guy is invading everywhere, right? That guy is a... Actually, I guess I can call him what I've been accused of being, a cyberbully. Right? Which is a ridiculous term. Cyberbullying with regards to Dark Souls PvP. Get over it, libs. Alright, back to PvP. I hate that buff weapon. Right? And I think it was after this time that he beat me that I decided that I'm going to make me a buff build too. Because I hate those buffs. Those things, you can get destroyed by a rapier. As a matter of fact, I think that's what he's using, a Rickards, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he is. That high-speed thrust. Now, speaking of Rickards, in my more recent video, the parry instructions, I've had guys who, you know, they'll say, well, your information is wrong, you can do something, you can't, and all like that. Let me say something, guys. I am not, I do not know all things, right? I test things based upon my interest, right? And I make assessments based upon my ability or my partner's ability to do something. It does not mean that it's the be all know all or the know all be all, whatever you want to call it. It just simply means in my efforts and the efforts of people who I am playing with was not able to do it. Now, if you guys have some information that is different from the information that I've set out, simply post a response, right? This is not, my efforts didn't have anything to do with, trying to think that I know everything. It was information for the entire Dark Souls PvP community, right? To help keep people informed. So for you guys making these, oh, you think you know everything, it is possible. Look, dude, it's not even about that. It's about sending out information to the community, right? So if you guys have information, just simply post a video response. It'll be helpful to everybody, right? All right, guys, this is the end of it. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. Martyr's Brigade is